Friends, another election, this time in Maharashtra and other states, has come to an end. The din has settled. Actually, it's all over, bar the shouting. And true to the adage, the shouting has begun and has been going on for some time. One needs to uphold democratic norms and the rule of law for maintaining legitimacy of the election process. It involves, respecting the fairness of voting procedures, refraining from using dishonest practices, tactics, and ensuring that the election results are counted accurately and transparently. The strategy to attack EVMs, electronic voting machines, constantly is unfair, flawed, and needs a rethink. Manipulation of electronic voting systems or ballot stuffing, as it is called, where votes are manipulated in favor of one candidate, is a serious charge and needs inscrutable proof. Mere accusations without proof does no good to the credibility of the parties making them. Of course, there are situations at times where elections are marred by unfair tactics and they undermine the sanctity and the integrity of the process. However, these methods involve legal, political, or even criminal actions to skew the outcomes. With all the best practices followed in design, implementation, and election procedures, such as regular audits, paper backups, adequate physical security measures in place, how is the integrity of elections questioned? So what is the shouting about? Apart from the EVM rigging, allegations of suppressing certain groups of voters rolls being purged, polling stations being closed in certain areas, and obstacles created to voting itself. Now, many of these may result in long waiting times. There could be fake news and misleading advertisements being used to manipulate the public opinion itself and deceive the voters and create confusion. And all this could be practiced. Prior to elections, it was alleged that the electoral district boundaries were drawn in a way that favors the ruling party. Seriously, can one really manipulate district lines to ensure that supporters of one party are packed into certain districts or spread thinly across many districts? The media outlets too were accused of promoting a specific candidate or party, while suppressing the voices of others by involving biased news coverage, false reporting, and deliberate disinformation campaigns. Even candidates were accused of offering bribes, and employing coercion tactics to pressure the voters into voting for them. It was also alleged that there might have been direct financial incentives or threats against individuals or communities if they did not vote in a certain way. All this raises some larger questions. Is winning an election so important that means fair or unfair does not matter? There are dictatorships and there are democracies. Dictators do not need elections, but they have them. Why do they have them? In democracies, how does one distribute resources, monitor grievances, and establish some legitimacy to their ruling without elections? Will they then be accused one way or the other? The process of winning an election, whether fair or unfair, is shaped by the strategies and tactics employed by candidates and their political allies. Fair elections rely on transparency, legal integrity, voter engagement, and the protection of democratic rights. Unfair elections, on the other hand, distort the will of the people. In elections, there are a variety of strategies and tools used in the fair domain. Elections are sometimes manipulated, and that is unfair domain. Such dynamics, however, depends on the system prevalent in that country. The rules of the election, the integrity of the candidates, the integrity of the political parties, and of course the voters themselves. These days, every country is accused of rigging elections in favor of the ruling party, especially when there is a landslide victory. Algeria, Tunisia, Venezuela, and even Russia are examples. Such accusations routinely happen in India after every election won by the ruling party. Is such accusation justified when there is so much of a transparent process in place? The ruling party admittedly designs and follows a well-structured and thoughtful campaign. It leverages surveys, cultivates focus groups, and employs data analytics to tailor messages to specific constituencies. No other party in the country probably campaigns with such focused objectives. One must appreciate that. That makes a big difference to winning. They win elections primarily because there is a fire in the belly. Why then target them as being unfair? That's the question. The opposition must introspect. BJP fought fair elections and won by appealing to voters in legitimate and transparent ways. Most of the candidates had clear messages and promoted policies that resonated with voters. Then the AI-based political applications created an understanding of voter demographics. Every party can do that. They also address concerns using social media and television. Their public appearances allowed them to connect with the public. They built a strong network of volunteers, grassroots organizers, and local influencers. Their volunteers helped with canvassing, phone banking, and distributed campaign materials. They had a robust ground game which ensured that voters were not only reminded to vote but were also actively encouraged to participate in the process. Who stopped the opposition from doing all that? If they have failed in that, why cry now? Winning requires mobilizing a large number of supporters to vote. They organize rallies, canvass neighborhoods, engage with voters directly through phone banks, door-to-door visits, and online campaigns. Everything was done. They ensured that voters were registered and aware of how, when, and where to vote. They addressed logistical barriers to voting and inspired people to turn out on election day. The ever-increasing percentage of eligible voters, election after election, is a testimony to this. Their public debates, if one has observed, provided candidates with opportunity to present their policies, answer questions from voters, and highlighted their differences with opponents. Their candidates performed well in debates, articulated better their vision clearly, demonstrating competence and empathy. A man-to-man marking did the trick for them. The opposition is smarting under a very effective campaign strategy on paper and executed to perfection on the ground by a party which believes in winning. There is a fire in the belly. That said, what the opposition needs to do is introspect. If their own strategy needs course correction, lest their lackluster fight that carries a copy of the constitution in one hand and the business tycoons' alleged prevarications in the other destroys both the campaign and the party. Think of it. With that, friends, I end this Saturday's episode. There are several elections round the corner and we believe much better executed contests in place. Thank you, Dhanyavad and Namaskar.